Call the meeting to order. Stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll begin the meeting by meeting with our auditor via Zoom. We have Ron Smith joining us.
Hey folks, Joe, you want to give a little prelude and allow me to share my screen?
It says multiple participants can share. Did that work for you?
Trying right now.
There you go.
You guys see it?
Yep.
Yes.
So we're this has definitely been a team effort, here to try to get this audit done. As I was telling Joe throughout the whole process, Fairhaven was really busy for 6/30/22, and you had some transition in your accountant's chair. We had the pleasures of working with Liz, and we can, just talk about some advice we can give you, to give her the best chance to sit in that chair and go forward and give you guys information to make good business decisions with. But Joe, how about I just spend a few minutes and hit the highlights of the 22 audit here and kind of like give a state where we're at right now and, some advice going forward. How does that sound, Joe?
That sounds great.
So this is your general fund budget for the town for the year that you can all see. So you are going to end your year end at surplus just about where you ended it last year, $235,000. Everybody see where I'm getting that number? I'm going to highlight it right here.
Yes.
So you're going to end at about 235. We're still working on really kind of unsift a lot of the transfers and the infrastructure projects that you had going on out there, but we're confident that that number is pretty spot on. Given all the transfers that were made back and forth to various reserves accounts, etc., for infrastructure projects, the debt, and and basically everything that you had going on there. And that 235 is about where you landed last year at 6/30/21. So where do we like to see you guys? We like to see you guys at about 30, 60 to 90 days of your operating budget. 30%, 30 days, which is about 8% being the lowest. 60 days is about 16%, 24% about 90 days. Last year, you guys were a little north of 30 days of your operating fund balance at about 185-ish. This year, you're going to land at about probably around 140,000, which is a little less than 30 days. So you guys evolved, it's since this is probably about 2 or 3 years removed, and me being involved with the town here, not the company, but me personally being involved, the town's really been always lean and mean with fund balance and carryover balance. And I don't ever recall Fairhaven, being really north of 30 days for that matter. So you guys continuously maintain that 30-day average. We'd like to see it 60 days, and I'll get into some details about that here in a few minutes, but we'd like to see it 60 days. And you've got some work to do there, not that can't be done, and I know your town's typically been frugal, but when you look at this page right here, here's a budget to actual page that you've got right here. The highlighted things are something we're still working with Nemrick and Liz on, just for, regarding some debt transfers to make sure that we've got everything. There was a double posting in there that we wanted to make sure that's right and accurate, that we're confident that we got fixed. But here's a couple of things of noteworthy. Your property tax collections were a little less than what you expected, but your revenues were about $50,000 in totality more than what you expected. So that's the good news. But when you look at your expenses, really your expenses were virtually, given some of the over expenses that we're seeing here, over budget, in totality, we're saying that you're going to bring your expense budget in pretty much on budget. So what's that mean? About a $40,000, shift of fund balance from 21 to 22. I know Joe was concerned kind of like where the budget was going to land, but your general fund budget's going to land pretty tight, you guys, but definitely tight in the favor of a positive, for the town of Fairhaven as a whole. And then when you go to the highway fund, This one gets even a little tighter, you guys. So we got the revenue budget for your highway department came within $13,000, and your expense budget came within $6,000. So you can see you ran some pretty tight budgets from your town services and your highway services, that you offered during last fiscal year. So it doesn't get much tighter than that. And just one thing to mention here, last year the statute in the state of Vermont, has changed to allow you guys some flexibility, all the municipalities in the state of Vermont, to where you can either continue to kind of separate your highway money, which I think is a good practice. It's a long-standing practice in the state of Vermont, the statute. That practice was kind of, halted and timed out last year with a change of legislation, to the point where now you can combine both of those budgets. But either way, I think that the moral of the story is in 22, you guys ran some pretty tight budgets and there was very little room for error. So, and then here, the next page, there's your fund balance, folks. That 235,000, as I said, that 140 that you're seeing right there, that's where you're going to land 6/30/22. Is where our expectations are based on this audit. I'd say that's a more than probable chance that you're going to land there, even after we work through just making sure we've got all the transfers and things during this past audit, which we're confident we do. And I think that NEMRIC is still working with you all on some accounting matters that we'll continue to work in. But there's where you're going to land on 6/30/22 for your general fund, of which that $96,000 we've earmarked for some various carry forwards and transfers at the end of the year. So that 140 is really going to be your undesignated fund balance. And last year that was about $185,000, $190,000, you all. So it's a little bit of a dip from last year, but you're still hovering, as I said, right around 30 days. And in addition to that, your highway fund has about $166,000, in it for the various, the highway department, services. And the $1,593,000 is made up of other funds, largely in part of your capital projects fund, various capital projects funds, which I think you've got, in various like reappraisal and things like that, about $1 million set aside, and a little less than $1 million set aside in various capital projects that I'll show you here in a second. And again, this is just a budget. This is just where your revenues came in and where your revenues went out, for the town and the highway fund and the other governmental fund, which is your capital projects funds, is a little bit deeper in the product here, a couple more pages. So again, fund balance 235, of which we expect 140 to be unencumbered, undesignated, and then the $166,000 for your highway reserve fund. Here's a conversation piece, and clearly if there's one thing that I think makes you a busy town, and one thing that certainly, really, kind of makes you a little bit complex, certainly down here and, in Fairhaven, is the utility departments that you run with water and sewer. And Joe and I, again, talking through this whole audit process, just to kind of bring this, full circle. I mean, the town virtually had probably close to $10 million of outside taxation dollars coming into the town for various projects, and that's a lot, for a municipality of your size, but really not a lot when you're running a water and wastewater fund at your town, because those can really, pose different challenges, as I always say, in the world of government. And when the phone rings and there's a repair or maintenance, usually there's a big price tag. And one of the things that I would probably say is one thing to look at, especially with the infrastructure, that you're taking on a tremendous amount of debt to upgrade your infrastructure and your utility department. But you can see right here, the unrestricted is in a deficit situation. What's that mean? You don't have a lot of operating capital down there that's liquid, you guys. A lot of it's tied up in your fixed assets, and that, when you're all done this project here next year, when the dust settles on it, I expect that number to get a little worse. And the reason why is because a lot of your equity's tied up in all your fixed assets. So that doesn't leave you, a lot of, for lack of a better way, a lot of operating capital there for water and wastewater. And I think if there's one thing, folks, that you might want to take a look at it, I was talking to Joe, and I know you've looked at that recently and done something. You did the rate study, for water and I believe wastewater. I think, folks, it's going to be time to do it again here pretty quickly. And one of the things that I would consider as you do it, is possibly some kind of a maintenance reserve, given the investment that you've made, in your infrastructure. That's certainly something that I would consider as well. But water and wastewater rates, I think, are something that's really going to have to be looked at close, you guys, over the next few years. And the good news is back in November of 21, the government passed their basically Build Back America package again. It's touted as the infrastructure package, for putting money down into government, into infrastructure needs that we need: highway, bridges, roads, water, wastewater. And we haven't seen any of that money yet, and we expect it fully somewhere 23 to 24 as the ARPA money starts drying up. You're going to start seeing that money come your way. And one of the things that we said about Joe one of the things I said to Joe is probably time to revisit your capital plan, you guys, because I see a lot of money being available to government out there. Some of it competitive, some of it available through, various avenues, whether it be the bond bank or various departments within the state. But I'd start sharpening up the pencils in that capital plan, because I would get prepared for somewhere in fiscal year 24 where there's going to be money available to your municipality and other government, in the state of Vermont. And I would take advantage of that and be waiting in line. And I think the better information that you have to say what you've done and kind of where you guys are going, the better off you're going to be to put yourself in a good situation to make your municipality, competitive with others, and taking advantage of some of the money available to you guys out there that we see coming down the road. And again, here's your water, your wastewater, department that you've got, here right now, the change in net position, that you've got, here, going on, but this is the one that I really, the wastewater one I really worry about, even though a lot of that's depreciation here with paper, it's the wear and tear. It's nothing that's physically coming out of your pocket. It's a real number. And the more money you're spending here on your upgrades and your infrastructure, the more that number is going to get bigger, and the more you really kind of need a plan to kind of fund that forever going forward. And I think that again, with the money that's going to become available to the world of government over the next few years, stand in line, folks. Get ready for it, and put yourself in a position. And as I told Joe, we'd like to help you, kind of take a perusal at this last study that you did, maybe give you some advice on, where to go with this next round. But I think water and wastewater are definitely going to be an area of need and continuous upgrade for you guys. And with the money available to you, it's an opportune time to really kind of revisit your plan and make sure that you've got good information to readily put out there to try to take advantage of some of the money coming your way, you guys. And then lastly is just the capital projects fund and other various special revenue funds that you've got, here. And you can see that you've got $900,000 in various capital projects, right here set aside for the town needs, and then $712,000 from the special revenue funds that you've got for reserves and other needs that you've got there at the town that are all earmarked, at June 30th, 2022, based on the wishes of the town. So. There's where you guys are going to land financially for the 6/30/22 audit, and certainly if you guys have any questions, I just want to talk about a few other things, but if you guys have any questions, I'm all ears.
So Ron, Glenn Travers on the line. My only question is, looks like good advice to look at our capital plan and see if we can make sure that we're in position when funding frees up for some infrastructure improvement. But overall, when you look at where we are, I heard you say that it'd be nice to be back to having 60 days versus 30. How do you, what do you usually see of how you inch that back up to 60 days?
What I think is going to happen, Glenn, is you start using up your ARPA funds and more funds available there. sadly, Glenn, over the next 2 years, and this is why I always tell you, state of who you are, but there's going to be other monies available, Glenn, for lack of a better way to say it, subsidize your operations, at the town and the services you provide. Start thinking about, Glenn, how you're able to take advantage of that and maybe subsidize some of that things, knowing that you've got a shelf life of about 2 or 3 years. I think, Glenn, that's one way that we're seeing the municipalities do it, is literally to, as this money's becoming available, is to use it to what they're going to need. And let's just say if it's a $200,000 capital project of which you were going to spend $50,000, $60,000 a year to fund over the next 4 or 5 years, if that money, Glenn's available to you, say in fiscal year 24 and 25, that frees up some money in your general fund where you can actually find a different avenue to subsidize it. Glenn, that's how we see that you're going to be able to make that 30 days back up. So, and that's what other municipalities are doing right now.
That sounds good. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, Glenn, they're looking, folks, hard at capital and maintenance line items and really kind of constructively using, their ARPA funds in the future, COVID relief funds coming your way, to really kind of, for lack of a better word, subsidize this generational opportunity that you guys have. And I just see that being nothing but good for your world. But stay to who you are, because we can also see that working against you too. So.
Good, thank you.
So one of the other things that we had talked about is, through this endeavor, and it's been great working with Liz through this transition. I think as we've talked to Joe about it, you guys, is Liz, by her own admittance, really, has some accounting, work, that she has some skills, but we really need to kind of, give her some support and some help in that chair. There's a lot going on in that chair, you guys, and as I told Joe, as you guys continue to use NEMRIC and use us, to try to help her get through that chair, because there's nothing worse than being in a chair for 4 months at a busy town with a lot going on, $10 million of things going on outside your normal world that you guys operate, and really kind of getting her some support, you guys. And Joe and I and Liz and a few people here from RHR are going to look forward to sitting down after the first year to make sure that we can accomplish exactly that. So.
Thank you. Sounds good. No, there's a lot to digest, and I appreciate you taking the time to review this with us.
Yeah, and listen, I'll be there over the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks down in that area. Joe, if we, certainly if our paths can cross, come to another follow-up meeting and, continue to, to have these conversations, I'm all in. So.
Ron, we appreciate it tonight.
Any questions of me, you guys? Happy New Year. We'll talk soon. Yeah. Joe, I'll find you after the New Year.
All right, see you later.
A lot of information, a lot of good information. All right, moving forward, any amendments to the agenda?
No amendments, sir.
5 minutes for public comments. Not all at once. All right, department head reports.
Just a question, Chad. We want to accept the minutes because we have a quorum?
Yes. Where was... I skipped right over that, didn't I?
Oh, not a problem.
Moving back.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of December 13th as written.
Will we have a quorum if I abstain since I was absent?
Ooh, no.
So it sounds like we'll have to table the approval of the December 13th minutes.
Yeah, agreed.
Is there a different option?
No, you can vote even though you weren't here. At one point we had 3 board members who had changed seats during the election, and they had to vote on that. But that's it. We can do it next time.
Okay.
Yes, it doesn't.
It's
doesn't hurt anything.
All right. We'll table it for next time.
All right.
Department head reports.
Okay. I am the police chief and DPW super today. I talked with Aaron a little bit on his way out of the office today. He didn't have a ton to report except all of the trees that they have taken care of, the trees that have fallen down. They've got most of those cleaned up that they could handle. If folks out there do see trees still in the road or near the road, it's because they're tangled up in a lot of power wires, and that is GMP has to take care of those trees. Our guys don't handle trees that are caught up in the power wires. It's just dangerous, and we're not equipped. Let's see, he said the plowing went well, the previous storm, and we've got a lot of good comments about how our guys handled the storm. Aaron was very proud to say that our roads were even better than New York's roads after the storm. So they did I would like to say that they did a really great job.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a good job, Joe.
They're fixing I think last time at the last meeting we were talking about the water pipe at the water plant, the ones that direct feed into town that doesn't go through the filter. They've started that repair. It's blocked off now. They're going to finish that repair sometime this week. So that's in progress. It fought with them a little bit today. And that's all I have for DPW. For the police department, just a couple of stats. Had a little bit of retail and retail theft and petty larceny around the holidays. 2 arrests. The guys the police department is out there checking for folks parking too long downtown or parking in the wrong places where there should be no parking here on North Main. They've given out 23 written warnings, 2 parking tickets, and they've had to deal with 2 car crashes since last time we sat down together. All right, moving on. We had a little bit of correspondence today to the manager's office. It was actually to the lister's office. We got the 2022 equalization study. This is the study that talks about how the value of our homes in our town compared to that of other towns. And we're okay right now. The common level of appraisal is where it should be at about 93.04%. Another worrying factor, and I'll give the board a copy of this to read, because a lot of these numbers don't make any sense if you don't have it. Another number to worry about, though, is the coefficient of dispersion. We have to be below 20% on this number. Right now we're sitting at 19.62%. All this to say that we're going to have to do an appraisal. We're going to have to reappraise all of the properties in town sooner rather than later. So the listers are going to start gearing up for that. It could take as long as three or 4 years to get it implemented and completed. So we have to start doing that now. We've kicked the can because of COVID a little too far. When it comes down to it, the state will force us to do this if we don't do it ourselves. Update on the Union Street properties. Those properties were cleaned out, completely cleaned out as of 12/14. We'll start the trapping in the properties to make sure we don't have any vermin left. I was asked about the zoning. There was a grant we have out for the zoning update. I have not heard yes or no on that, and neither has the Rutland Regional Planning, so we're still waiting to hear about that. On that, I got an email. It must have been on Friday. The federal government passed their omnibus budget, and in the omnibus budget is $250,000 for the town of Fairhaven to help finish the project here in Town Hall. So we should have enough to do all of the bells and whistles that we were hoping to get done.
This was something that you put together and submitted,
It is.
and it went through Representative Welch's office, from what I was reading. So I'd like to recognize that and say thank you for putting that to Representative Welch's office, and certainly want to thank Representative Welch on making that a priority for the town of Fairhaven. So, thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Now, Joe, does that put us back on, knowing that we have the funding, does that help us keep us on schedule to complete that project by mid-2023?
Glenn, every time I give a date, I'm consistently proven wrong. So I'm gonna say yes with the caveat that this project hasn't gone as smoothly as we wanted it to.
No, but that's fine.
Yep. What we're waiting on now is USDA. They have to green light this again.
That's just great news to hear. I agree with Chad. This is excellent. Thanks for your effort, and it's good to see that Senator-elect Welch helped us out.
I think that, not to get too far off topic, but having this offset the cost or some of the cost of the upgrades, and as we look at, and as I'd like to look at, certainly supported by our auditor's suggestion, is dispersing the ARPA funds toward operational costs. I think there's a pathway to 60 days operating costs moving forward. So this is huge.
So to talk about the town hall project a little bit, I know, you know, I'm here I'm here a lot of days, and I see that hole in the wall, and I see those bricks sticking out there, and I know it's frustrating for people, for the town particularly, because it's their money. A lot of it's their money. What I was thinking is that these things, like the lights in the park and the town hall, these are things that future people, you know, the next town manager and the next board of selectmen, in 20 years, they're not going to have to sit here and deal with this. They'll be thankful that it's done. And it's a pain in the butt right now, but it's something that in the future it won't need to be dealt with. So that's kind of the way I see things like this. Moving on. So we were talking a little bit about revenue generation. I did reach out to a company that does carbon sequestration credits, the carbon credit program. Their particular program we're not eligible for in New England this year. It rolls out, it's starting out in the Southwest and it rolls out to New England, he said, mid next year. So that's something to think about. In the meantime, I did reach out to the forester. We do have a large stand of trees in the north that it's been a while since those have been cut. So he's gonna run in there and take a look and see what we got going in our forest and see if it's worth it to maybe log it a little bit. For the properties on Union Street, it was 11 dumpsters that came out of there. 11 dumpsters full. Yep.
You have a price on them yet, Joe?
I don't have a cost yet. I'm waiting for Casella. We do get the town rate on that, which is a good rate, but it's still going to be expensive.
Is that for the two houses or just the one?
Both houses. Yeah.
Two.
And I was asked to take a look and see where the other towns are coming in at for their budget increases, just as a heads up. Proctor is at 6% increase right now. Castleton, they're floating around 5%, and Pulteney is also sitting around 6%. So Fairhaven is sitting 3.5–4% increase as of today. So we're doing a little better. We're a little bit more conservative than the other towns.
Pulteney's how much?
About 6%. Nothing's
And
final.
Castleton 4?
Castleton's 5%.
These are all estimates at this time, correct?
Yeah. Nothing's finalized, but that's where they're sitting. And that's what I have for you today.
Thank you. Any questions on the department head reports?
No question.
The only thing I got is this tree sequester thing deal there. Is that something we need to kind of get going now because or do we have to wait till next year to start it? I mean, can we get a jump on things or not?
This is just the one program that I reached out to. There may be other programs that we can deal with. I'm still poking around. I'm new at this. I don't have a lot of experience, but I reach out and ask questions.
It sounds like a real good idea, if it's doable.
If it's doable.
All right. Moving forward. Old business. Looks like the phosphorus reduction project is on the
So this was the project we talked about at the last meeting.
Yes.
It was the last meeting. When Hillary Solomon came in to talk about the project, there would be filters placed on the north side outside of the park, but north side of the park here. She sent me some responses to questions. So if I can read those. The question was, can the footprint be left for an ice rink? And she said, of course. The question was, can cars drive on it? She also says yes, but they're going to look and see what the load rating is. So she believes cars can drive on it, but they're going to just double check that load rating. We don't want to second guess that. And the third question was, can we avoid the paths and fencing? And it was also yes. They don't have to touch any of the path or the fencing, so it's not going to impact the park. So for today, I think the board decided they wanted to take a vote on it, see if they wanted to support the project. Jay Brown couldn't be here, but he wanted me to read a letter, if that's okay, a letter he wrote. And Jay writes, Jay Brown, he says, I'm writing this note to the board because I can't be at the meeting because of work. I'm totally against the Polteny Meadowy storm drain project. There are no provisions for future maintenance or for cleaning of the filters of this project. It falls totally on the taxpayers of Fairhaven. Polteny Meadowy is just looking for a place to spend their grant money. Don't let them dump this burden onto the town, onto the people of Fairhaven. Jay says he is voting no on this project. He would also like a round table vote on this. He would also like this letter to be put into the minutes of the meeting. So he could let the taxpayers know how the board votes on this. This one selectman, Jay, cares about the people of Fairhaven and how money is being spent. And I'll hand that to you. Can you put that in the minutes?
You want me to type it in, or do you want to attach it?
Oh, I'll attach it. That'll be easier.
Okay, whatever works,
No, we'll attach it.
because I can type
I-
it in.
Just a comment there, Joe. I know we said we were going to vote. What we're actually voting on is continuing forward with getting final answers, getting the final proposal. We're not saying it's shovel ready and go. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is to say, let's move forward and make sure it's still feasible.
And my only comment is, I can appreciate Jay's letter, but I feel we can move forward here. But the one of saying he wants everyone on the record, I have no problem with waiting till we have the full 5 of us sitting there, and everyone, and Jay will get what he's looking for, is everyone on the record. I can tell you I'm for it, just like I did the last meeting. I don't know what Rich and Chad, how they feel about whether they want to vote tonight or wait till we get the full board.
I'd like to have more discussion on it myself. The way I feel about it is, I don't think there's enough answers out here yet. Nowhere near enough information. Who's gonna take care of this down the road many years when the grants funds are all gone and this, they won't even remember what they did with the money. And the town, if it clogs up, the town has problems with the drainage. Where's that money gonna come from to fix it? It looks to me like a big filtering system that someone someday is gonna have to take care of. And until I can get any more information than that, from what I've been gathering so far, I think it's gonna be a costly event down the road. I think there's other. Go ahead.
I believe we need to see, everybody's making statements and assumptions I believe it would be helpful, like you said, Rich, to get some data, because I don't have that concern.
That's exactly right, and I don't either. But I'm just worried about that stuff.
Mm-hmm, understood.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with the both of you. I'd like to move forward so that we can get more information.
Exactly.
But there are a lot of questions such as that. But I think it's a worthwhile thing to look into for sure.
So I can ask if the board wants to wait, I can ask Hillary to come back and speak a little bit more to the maintenance.
I think that would be helpful.
I think it would be helpful.
I'll ask her to come.
It's
I mean, I'm talking long-term maintenance. I'm not talking about next year, 5 years from now. I'm talking about 25, 30 years from now, when this all plugs up.
is
You know, we don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
But it's a concern.
Now, is this a state project, or is this something that the state is going to kind of afford to the town, if you will, and then it's up to us after that?
From what I understand, just based on a little bit of the little conversation I had with Hillary, was it's the state has allocated funds to projects like this. They went around and looked for projects, and this one ranked high, like she'd mentioned before. She did mention there was money for maintenance. I think she said 15 years out, but after that, the big question is who takes care of it after that. You know, 30, like Mr. Greeno said, 30 years out, who maintains it? I don't think we know.
And my only concern is the maintenance costs will pale in comparison if the state 8 years out tells us we have to put it in, and we don't have the grant money to put it in. Right now, it doesn't cost us anything.
There you go.
That's a good
That's the
point.
big thing that I'm struggling.
That's a good point.
I'll ask Hillary to come back for the next week.
Thank you. Moving forward. New business. We wanted to talk about the West Haven transfer station fees.
So I pulled a few numbers for the board. They were in the cheat sheet that I provide. I took a look at what it costs per capita to run our transfer station, both for the residents of Fairhaven and then what the people of West Haven are paying. So per capita for Fairhaven residents, we're paying a little more than $87,000. I'm sorry, $87 per person to run the transfer station. West Haven, for their 16,000, their cost per person is only almost $67 per person. So they're getting a good deal. They're being charged about $20 less per person than our actual residents are. Does that make sense?
I understand you, but it doesn't make sense.
No, wait, yeah. Okay. So that's where that sits. To actually make it fair, to bring West Haven up to Fairhaven level, their cost would have to be $22,231.
And Joe, do I see what, one of the proposals is to ease them up to that rate over a few years?
What I would propose, let me see what I wrote. I would propose to bring them up to the I got 20 written here, but I would propose to bring them up to the 22. And then I really think, Glenn, I think moving forward there should be a slight increase every year, so that way they stay current.
And that was, and I agree. When I read the recommendation in the handout, I didn't know if you were going to gradually, incrementally get up to the 22, where I'm saying, no, I'm okay with just here's the amount, and then it'll be as increases come, it'll be the same for West Haven as for the Fairhaven resident.
Yeah, there's something that you don't see in the actual budget are kind of the hidden costs. So things like my time, you don't see that reflected in your in your transfer station budget. But I still deal with the transfer station. I still have to manage the transfer station. I'm down there a little bit. Same with police. The police are still down there. DPW spends time down there. Aaron, for example, will be down there taking care of problems. These are all hidden costs that West Haven doesn't have to deal with because they're not paying any taxes. While Fairhaven residents, they eat all of that. So all that to say, I think to make it really fair, the number should be even higher than the 22. I think their rate per person should be higher than Fairhaven's.
I was just gonna suggest that. A little bit. I mean, just because of the reason you spoke, you know?
What's standard practice in municipalities for administrative costs? I know in other sectors it might be 10%. You know, do we find a rate and then include a 10% administrative cost on top of that?
Sure. I don't think there's a standard,
Okay.
especially for this. A lot of towns, many towns don't have a transfer station, so let alone kind of parsing up. But I would see 3 to 5%. That's
That would be fair, I would think, to have a little bit of a cost built in for that.
Now, Joe, have we talked to anyone in West Haven so that they have a heads up that it's, because it's getting close to March, that there's gonna be an increase?
yeah. So I didn't talk to the gentleman from West Haven, but word did get out. He was actually supposed to come to the meeting tonight, but the room's mostly empty. I don't think, and I'm speaking on hearsay, Glenn, so don't quote me on this, I guess. But their budget is January to December, right? So they're on a calendar year, not on a fiscal year like we are. I don't, and I hope I'm not speaking out of term. I don't think the rate increase is out of line. They're afraid we're going to hammer them right in the middle of their budget, because they start their budget at the beginning of the year, not in the middle of the year like we do. So we may have to work with them, if that makes sense.
It does, but yeah, we don't want to cause undue hardship, but the amount of money we're talking, the 22,000, seems pretty reasonable to start, as a place to start.
Agreed. I mean, ultimately, we want to cover costs at the transfer station and not, take a loss, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
We need to watch out for Fairhaven.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's our job.
absolutely.
And I would think they would understand also that you're not gonna be able to, they can't get it for less than what we have to get it for, you know?
But, and that said, not looking to make major changes, because
Correct.
I think going from 16 to 22 is not a major change, but that could be. I'd feel more comfortable, before we did anything else, that someone from West Haven needs to come in and help us understand how doable, what's the hardship, all of that. If they don't want to, then okay, but we should at least try to get them some input from them.
I will reach out to West Haven.
Any other thoughts on that? So maybe, I don't know when he might or might not be able to join, but hopefully in 2 weeks, would we look to vote on increasing their rates?
We have to know for the budget, and the budget is due on January 10th.
Ooh,
Yeah. We'll have one more meeting, and then January 10th.
so we want to get him in like the 3rd. If we're having,
Sooner the better.
yeah.
Yeah, if we have a special meeting on the 3rd, can't we discuss this, and, because that's when we can put it we should get it in our budget.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. Good information.
Oh, yes. Yeah. All right, budget review time.
So with two board members gone, does the board want to get into the budget? Or do you want to wait until, have a special meeting on the 3rd?
I think the third.
I think it'd be better to have more of us here.
I agree with Chad and Rich that we should wait and have a special meeting. It's too important to do it with the three of us.
So we'll table the budget review. Around town, things happening.
Just a reminder, January 15th, we're still talking about this at 2 p.m. at the American Legion here in Fairhaven. There's going to be a lecturer in to talk about the historic Red House that used to be over where the new Stewart's currently sits. And I need to start plugging what I'm calling park cleanup days. April 29th, May 6th, May 13th, and May 20th. So we have some volunteers ready to go to help clean the park fence and to paint the park fence. But we could use more. So if you're interested in volunteering, coming out, cleaning and painting the park fence, maybe having a hamburger or two.
May what now?
6, 13, and 20.
I'll be there if I don't have the COVID again.
And the timing would be right, even if there's no such thing as too many volunteers. I bet there'll be some raking, some limbs that have come down through the winter and everything. That there's things that can be done.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, the park is the best. It's our best asset. We need to take care of it.
Absolutely.
And along that lines, I know we're not gonna do a budget talk tonight, but I would like to come up with a long-term plan to budget some money each year for sections of that fence as a routine yearly project that, have it painted certain sections per year as needed. And along that lines, we're gonna have lights to maintain. So that's gonna have to be some money budgeted there also for that stuff.
Sounds like we're working on a Parks and Rec budget. I'll keep lobbying for that. No, I agree. We got to look out for maintaining it down the road, and if we can save incrementally every year rather than all at once.
Yeah, and I think it's all one package too. I think I've heard Claire mention the tree replacement. I mean, it's all. And the tree replacements, I think there's a lot of things into the keeping the park looking great and fully functional.
All right. Is that it for things happening?
That's it.
Parking lot.
No changes there.
No changes on the parking lot. Any questions about any of the parking lot? Actually, I think Ron, our auditor, brings up a good point, and it's certainly not a discussion for tonight if we're going to talk about spending with everybody here. But I think we have to have the conversation of rolling some ARPA funds into operational costs. I think that's a lot of towns are doing it. I believe Rutland did it, and I mean, if the accountant is throwing it out as an idea too, it might be something to look at. So.
ARPA funds in what?
ARPA funds to work into our budget.
Chad, could we roll that in? Are you thinking rolling that into a whole discussion around capital plan? What Ron was talking about and under the parking lot, and that's where you look at, do you put some ARPA funding in to help our capital plan? Or is that something different?
So I think the idea was to roll it in to I wouldn't say projects necessarily, but some sort of spending that helps us ease our own funds out of the operational costs of the town,
Okay,
so that we can carry a little more liquid assets moving forward.
okay.
Board roundtable.
Still waiting on a concrete price for steel building for informational purposes here. Ballpark figure at $50 a square foot. That's what they told me, but they don't have the official numbers yet. So, we're talking around $350,000 for a building before concrete, before anything, just a building, just a framework and insulation. So just to give you an idea of what's coming down the road.
Better than the cost of a salt shed.
Well, the salt shed's gotta come too.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, I those are decent numbers. Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right. Glenn, you have anything for the roundtable?
No, I have nothing.
Just some thoughts on my end, and Rich and I were talking about it a little bit beforehand too. The assessment, or I don't want to use the term assessment, but Rich has been going around taking a look at our streets and our sidewalks and which ones are in need of repair and kind of ranking them in terms of need to address first and so on. I'd like, when we talk about capital planning, to discuss how we're going to set aside funds every year for, we could pick a year, 10 years out even, and come up with a plan on which roads we're going to fix and on which time frames, as a part of that capital planning process. Almost like looking at what the vision of the town is and coming up with a 10-year plan that works towards that. So I think there's a lot that folks want, but I also think that it's going to take some time to get there, and it's gonna take some saving of money so that we can get there financially. So just some thoughts as we think about improving Fairhaven. Anything else, roundtable?
No.
All right. Review of the financial reports.
I'll make a motion to pay the payroll of $34,517.37.
I'll second that.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to pay the warrants of $141,644.89.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And the checkbook status is $1,087,309.25.
Sounds good. All right. And perhaps looking for a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make
I make
that.
a motion to go into executive session for personnel under 1 VSA 313A3.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Executive session. Thank you.